A pleasant morning to you and welcome to the Break of Dawn newspaper review on your latter station 32 FM 94.9. It's the 27th day in the month of January 2023. I am Adenike, Ademuwagun.
And I'm Gbolabo, famous scum. It's great to be here.
It is good to be here as well. Punch newspaper, we'll kickstart with that and then we'll take the Premium Times, the Daily Post, the Daily Trust, the Nation, the Guardian and any other newspaper that we can touch. The Punch, the first story, Katsina youths protest hardship, stone officials during Buhari's visit. AGF pays $446 million Ajaokuta judgment debt. Graft, ICPC rearrests former JAMB registrar. Just by the logo of the Punch, you find Adenike versus Oyetola. Tribunal rules today. Police warn troublemakers. To the major story on the Punch, mega churches, schools bar old Naira note payment offering. New notes shortage forces banks to shut ATMs. Customers demand extension. Reps threaten Emefiele with arrest. Insists CBN governor must obey summons. And another rider on the major story, law professor sues CBN. NLC writes Buhari over deadline extension. And away from that, traders bemoan losses as fire guts Lagos market. Three more stories and we move to another paper. Petrol scarcity protesters block Lagos Benin Expressway. My wife battled for survival as hospitals refuse treatment. Slain lawyer's husband. And finally, power tariff shortfall, now 2.5 trillion naira. This is coming from the federal government.
All right, quickly now to the Nation newspaper this morning. There are quite a number of headlines here on the front page of the Nation newspaper. Here we have Nigeria's elite selfish, says Buhari, and some members of the elite are selfish and do not care about the country's progress. President Muhammadu Buhari said yesterday, he said that is why he criticizes them. All right, and of course, we also have these Nigeria's elites. All right, that's coming from Buhari. Petrol crisis, PDP colluding with saboteurs, says Tinubu. House threatens Emefiele with arrest over Naira note scarcity. I will close IDP camp if elected, coming from Tinubu. Atiku remains my presidential candidate choice, says Paul Play. And of course, more of the headlines this morning also says movement holds victory shower for Tinubu orders. A new dictionary translate new words into local languages. Journalists seek register for attackers. Monarch marks 45th anniversary. And we also have Eleko Ekpe Road will reduce poverty. Institute seeks to train more women chefs. Firm scores high in workers' welfare. And that all that is coming from the Nation newspaper this morning.
Moving to the headline on the Premium Times, Japa, 309 Nigerians renounce citizenship in 16 years. Gbolabo threatens to issue arrest warrant on Emefiele. Officer who shot Bolanle Rahim attempted to flee from scene. Police witness tells court. 27 pastoralists killed in airstrike in Nasarawa. How Nigeria's presidential candidates plan to tackle high cost of governance. Tinubu alleges plot to scuttle 2023 poll. 2 dead, many injured as APC PDP supporters clash in Osun. Abia PDP governorship candidate is dead. And that's all from the Premium Times this morning. We move to the Daily Post. The first story on the Daily Post says 2023, another gubernatorial candidate dies. Hoodlums cause uproar as Buhari commissions project in Katsina. ICPC rearrests ex-JAM registrar Ojerinde. 309 Nigerians renounce their citizenship. Federal government. Naira note crisis. Again, Gbolabo threatens to arrest Emefiele for shunning House committee. Banks hoarding new Naira notes risks stiffer sanction. CBN. 2023 polls. APC, PDP, LP compete for crowd. Claim dominance. And we'll take 3 more stories and move to another paper. Jigawa traders shut businesses over scarcity of new Naira notes. And finally, FCT bans POS operators from residential areas.
To the Guardian newspaper, Stampeders Nigerians tackle CBN deadline on card swap. Nigerians from all parts of the country will enter this weekend agitated and confused over the currency redesign policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, while banks remain open to receive ordinary notes till Tuesday, January the 31st. Private sector leaders seek effective takeoff of AFCTA and Tinubu's right presidential bid versus theories of APC working against South. And more of the headlines this morning says Ogoni, after 7 years, residents lament slow pace of cleanup. And we also have AIFAD sign new pact to support 40 million African farmers, increase financing. And the last one here coming from the Guardian newspaper, youth protesters Buhari commissions projects in Castina.
All right, let's take a look at the Daily Trust before we go on a commercial break. Ondo Council boss suspended over graft, abuse of office. Death toll from Nasarawa bombing has risen to 40, Governor Sule. Katsina residents protest hardship during Buhari's visit. Tinubu accuses PDP of sabotaging fuel supply, blackmailing federal government. 2023 rejects APC for deceiving you on restructuring. Atiku tells voters, don't present Senator Bwacha as Taraba APC Guba candidate. This is coming from a group. And one more story, history will be kind to me, Buhari. And we go on our first commercial break. When we come back, we will bring you the analysis. Stay tuned.
32 FM 94.9.
My guy, waiting the path now. Almost she don't see the result. Guy, no be small thing, no, but trust you, Nana. One parallel. How you doing now? Fine, I be fine. Now, so small house party go in place tomorrow. Jubo Kese go expect you for here tomorrow.
What time?
6 p.m. sharp.
Why you dey rush talk now?
See, my credit goes finish. My credit goes finish.
For this glue economy, now your credit dey finish.
I beg send me another thing.
Gas speedometer. No need to rush your call. Buy Glow SIM, and when you submit your NIN, then go first sama you up to free 20,000 naira for voice and data. And when you can't even subscribe to Glow, 11 copper per second. Now to the make calls for as low as 11 copper per second to all networks. It is available to new and existing subscribers. Terms and conditions they shall.
Glow Unlimited.
Twisco to support their big dreams.
Twisco, power your dream.
Are you looking for a quality hybrid of solar and wind? Solar panel, inverters, street lights, wind turbine, batteries. Well, look no further. Greater Light Power Limited is here to serve you with uninterrupted power generation, which makes them different from others. Greater Light Power Limited offers American-trained engineers for your installations. Contact Greater Light Power Limited at number 2 Ojo Badon Avenue, Old Bodija, Ibadan. For more information, call 0805-852-1994, 0817-759-5000. Website www.greaterlightpowerlimited.com. Greater Light Power Limited, bringing you a brighter life.
Your Friday nights just got a massive reload. Catch a vibe and run with it on Club 32 with DJ Mascot, spinning you into musical heavens. Club 32, Max Cruise, Max Vibes, Max Hypes, Max Energy. It's happening on 32 FM 94.9 every Friday, 10 p.m. Turn up on Friday nights with DJ Mascot on Club 32. It's about to go down. It's about to be lit.
láti ìlọ mẹ́ka lálọ́dẹ you fit fly ní kẹjá lọ.
asalaamu alaikum gbogbo mùsùlùmí ilẹ̀kùn hajj 2023 ti ṣí sílẹ̀ fún gbogbo ẹni tó fẹ́ bá wa ṣèrìn àjò lọ́dún yìí iléeṣẹ́ alálùbáríkà you fit fly ní pé gbogbo wa o. hajj ìtọ́dún ní yàtọ̀ kọjá àtàtẹ̀yìnwá ṣe ti wá mọ̀ pé àtètè sùn ní àtètè jí ọ̀pọ̀ tí ń fọ́ kọ́lẹ̀ níléeṣẹ́ you fit fly ẹ̀yin náà tètè máa bọ̀ wá fọ́ kọ́lẹ̀ fún hajj 2023 tí ó wáyé láàrin ọjọ́ kẹẹ̀ẹ́dógún oṣù kẹfà sọ́jọ́ keje oṣù keje ọdún 2023 pẹ̀lú ọ̀pọ̀ ètò tó mú ìgbádùn rẹpẹtẹ dání ilégbé ìrọ̀rùn tí ò jìnnà sí haram àti mọ́sálásí ànábì Mádínà síyára ọ̀fẹ́ lójoojúmọ́ oúnjẹ àjẹdọ́wẹ́kẹ̀ lẹ́ẹ̀mẹ́ta lójúmọ́ tó fi mọ́ ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ètò tí ó mú ká ẹ ṣe àṣepé hajj tọdún ní ajẹ́ pé ẹ má fàkókò ṣòfò mọ́ ẹ wá darapọ̀ mọ́ àwọn hujjaj lọ́fíìsì you fit fly tó wà ní success house 7up road olúyọlé main estate ring road Ìbàdàn tàbí kẹ́ ẹ pè 0703 711 7801 hajj 2023 pẹ̀lú you fit fly inshallah àjọ lọ ni.
Wait. Remember our guy, Femo? What a character.
Yes, remember his usual 15 naira for 1 hour bundle on YouTube.
As in, he always knows the latest hits and bangers.
Yes, so even his comedy and series game is top notch.
Remember his nickname now?
Mr. Do It On Your Own. And also his come and see how to be this and that. Bros is well rounded.
Ada, come and see how to be a fashion designer.
Get 1 hour of YouTube video data for 50 naira and 3 hours for 130 naira on the MTN network. Simply dial *131 *8 *1 hash today. There's YouTube data for everyone on the MTN network.
32 FM 94.9.
Welcome back. It's still Break It Dawn coming from 32 FM 94.9. My name is Gbolabo. Famous school.
And I am Adenike. Ademuwagun. Professor Olu Ojedokun joins us in the studio. Good morning, sir.
Well, top of the day to you, and of course, it's a pleasure to be here.
Good morning, Prof.
Good morning.
All right, we kickstart with this story that says Gbolabo threatens to issue arrest warrant on Emefiele. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbolabo, says he will not hesitate to ask the Inspector General of Police, Usman Baba, to issue an arrest warrant on Godwin Emefiele. The Speaker said that he's going to threaten to invoke Section 89, subsection 1 of the 1999 Constitution. Emefiele now has members of reps combing through the books of law to call him to order, does he not? And does Emefiele not need to actually boldly face his action? In the popular Gen Z lingo, we say, face what he started with his full chest.
Well, what's interesting, because yesterday when I analyzed, I was thinking they would go for the full nuclear option. And the full nuclear option would have been impeachment, but obviously it's the Senate that can do that. I think the House of Reps are using the powers that they have, which is the legal powers, to force witnesses, to compel witnesses to appear before. I'm not surprised. This is the second time or thereabout that it has happened. And no serious legislative body will allow public officials, no matter how highly placed, to take them for a ride. He's taking them for a ride. He has responsibility to the Nigerian people. Yes, he might be the governor of the central bank, but he's not governor of a private entity. He's governor of a public entity. And I think, his responsibility is to respond. And so we see how this will play out. Whether it's just a bluff, is a counter bluff going on here. So we see what's going to go on. But what is quite clear is that Baja is quite serious about this. And people will say that many of the reps want the CBN to reverse their policies, and that's why they are keen on him coming to address them.
Because if they do not reverse the policy, not exactly reverse, but postpone, postpone the end to using old naira notes. As at yesterday, for instance, I wanted to buy a couple of things, and I was told we no longer take old naira notes. Mega churches, there's a headline here that says from the Punch, mega churches, schools bar old naira note payment offering. And this is starting to create some sort of tension because the January 31 deadline is just about 4 days away. and nobody wants to be stranded with money that they can no longer use.
Absolutely. I think for schools, and I think for churches, and I think for organized establishment, I don't think it's that problematic, because what a lot of people can do is to transfer and do things. But the market, there are places where transfers simply don't work. And you really need the cash, to transact. And that's where we are going to have a problem. I think what Nigeria should have done is adopt what they do in the West, which is, yes, the notes are no longer the legal tender, but you can go to the bank, you understand, to exchange them. So which means that from the 31st, you should be able to allow people just to go to the bank to deposit them, to exchange them, but you won't be able to spend it. And I think that would have been a neater way to be able to organize this. It means that the old Naira notes, you can't spend it, but you can still at least keep the value by returning to the banks, and it will achieve the double aim that they are seeking in that respect. But it's quite clear that many people haven't got hold of this new Naira note.
Yes.
People will be forced, in many circumstances, to start electronic banking. But I don't know what's going to happen to those in the rural areas. And where.
All right, I still want to speak on the new Naira note, and I'm wondering if you say that the deadline is the 31st of January. And now you still have the ATM still dispensing the old Naira notes. People are taking the old Naira notes to the banks, and now still the ATM still has that for many people. And to add up to that, let's quickly also look at the Nation newspaper. Petrol crisis, PDP colluding with saboteurs, says Tinubu, and Atiku trying to pit Tinubu against Buhari. And now this sounds more political than even the issues on the ground. Now, what is the connection between Atiku, who is from the opposition, and the ruling APC party, as a matter of fact, which has this administration under its whims, so to say?
Yes, I'm confused. First, just to wrap up the Naira notes thing, I think, you understand, it's part of the failure of the central bank and the banks, that they're still loading and they're still bringing out, when you go to the ATM, old Naira notes. It just doesn't make sense at all, and more hardships will be occasioned by that. Moving on to the story that PDP is trying to sabotage. You asked the question, is PDP in the government? Exactly. I think the story yesterday before was, by implication, it was some elements within the APC. Even the national youth leader of the APC said it was elements within the Buhari government that was trying to sabotage Asiwaju. Now they are shifting the narrative to the opposition party. And I say, how come? I thought the APC was in government. Are they saying they're in government but not in power? Which other means that they hold the reins, but they don't really have the power to do anything useful from that point of view. I don't know how the PDP comes in, but surely the PDP has been very quiet, on this crisis. I would have thought that the PDP would have made much more of this crisis, but they haven't really done that. And you begin to wonder why not, from that point of view. But I think the reality of it is that the NNPC Limited has simply not got the logistics to deliver the petrol, the PMS. They haven't got it, and they've never admitted that they've got it. And there's also the element of what is going on with the landing vessels and so on. People say there's also some difficulties, which I really don't understand. But the saga continues. Is this a political issue? Is it an economic issue? Or is it a logistic issue?
All right, let's touch on this story. The headline says, Atiku deceitful on his promise to resolve Ajaokuta steel problem. This is from the federal government. The federal government says the solution to the problems facing Ajaokuta Steel Company does not lie in the hands of former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, who supervised its questionable and failed concession. Now, history reports that he was in charge of that in that administration, the Obasanjo administration. He was in charge of the privatization program, and nothing was exactly really productive at the end of the day.
Well, but I thought that Buhari came a few weeks ago and said, well, Ajaokuta will produce thousands of jobs, and they have been resolved, and they launched one thing or the other. And my argument was that the Ajaokuta was not designed to succeed. It was designed to rest on the Russian industry and the Russian know-how. And the Russian know-how, we know the technology is an old technology, which is not a technology which is necessarily being used in the modern day. But having said that, Atiku has now come to say he would do some stuff without Ajaokuta. And if you go back history, which you were able to recount, he was the one that privatized it and sold the thing for more or less scrap. And I say for scrap because it wasn't really sold for the value that was invested. I think a time comes when you have to, what's the word? When you have to count your losses. And when you just have to move on. We've spent billions on that, what's it called, concern. We can't call it a going concern. And I think the time is now to just cut our losses and just to move on. because basically it's not yielding money. It's taking money away from us, and of course, people they sold it to somebody who couldn't make do with it, and now sold it back to the government, as it were. So we're wasting a lot of money on it, and I would expect the government to just cut their losses and just to move on.
All right, let's also look at the power sector. What is it about this 1,000 about megawatts that will have distribution company not being able to utilize them? We have a blackout. Now, we keep wondering that the privatization of the electricity sector in Nigeria, is it a blessing or a curse in disguise, as a matter of fact? Or do we just look at the bidding process to say that they didn't follow the rudiment, and we still have the cronies of people within the government actually manning these places?
No, it would have been a blessing, because obviously NEPA, over the years, the NEPA was the precursor to what's going on. The NEPA couldn't simply manage, couldn't simply invest, and couldn't simply maintain power. So, of course, it would have been a blessing. But somewhere during the bidding process, or somewhere during the privatization, people without the technical know-how, you understand, actually took over the process, and some of them bought some of this distribution. They call them discos. Bought some of these discos, and I think the same thing applies to the Glencoe. So what we have is a situation where they don't necessarily have the technical know, but that's not just the only problem. The problem was that the federal government in the past did not invest enough in the infrastructure, and it was going to take a lot of money to bring it up to scratch. The tariffs cannot meet up, so they relied on subsidy. So there's a subsidy regime. And the subsidy regime therefore means that the government is subsidizing private industries, you understand, to deliver. And if they were delivering, you understand, you would say at least it's worth it. But they're not delivering because they generate a lot, not a lot, but they generate far much more than they can distribute. The distribution is a problem. They generate, but they can't distribute. Siemens has been brought in by the federal government, and Siemens is supposed to help resolve some of this bottleneck. But they said it's not going to be this year. It might be next year that we'll get some improvement. So at the end of the day, we are faced every year with more increased, tariffs, and yet the power situation is still appalling.
All right, this headline says, Reps asks NUC to shut down schools to allow students to vote. Now, some days ago, I don't know if you saw this, but this trended on Twitter. Students were asking the federal government to declare a holiday so that they could pick up their PVCs as well as vote during the election. And seeing that most of them were registered at the time when they were at home. That was during the 8-month strike. So is this a good move? Is this good news? Or it's an in-between news, seeing as academic session will be disrupted for a couple of days or so after this whole 8-month thing that we had last year?
Let's get the legal technicalities out of the way. The NUC does not have the power to shut down universities. It is the university councils of the respective university under the law that have the power to shut them down. So they're appealing to the wrong people in the first instance. But having said that, I think it would be a disservice to the students and many of the young ones not to be able to vote. And I think there are many institutions, Nigerian Law School and some private institutions, that are already taking into account that there will be elections, and they will go on a sort of vacation, mini vacation. And I know 8 months they lost a lot, but I think there's a way that it can be done. Many of them started immediately after the 8 months. They didn't go for Christmas, and that might serve as some kind of vacation for them whilst, people are able to vote. Because I think it's fundamental that the vast majority of Nigerians who are entitled to vote actually have that right to exercise, and they exercise it at the ballot box. So that at least, because if we get the wrong government, if we get an incompetent government, then even education is at risk. The whole entity called Nigeria may even be questioned. So I think students, young people voting should be encouraged, and the university councils, wherever they are, must do everything to support that and to facilitate that.
So we're looking at 2 holidays now. The first one to pick up their PVCs, which will close January 31st, according to the reports, and the second one to vote.
Well, picking up PVCs, I think you can travel in a day and come back if you're not too far. So that might not really work to have a holiday declared. But yes, the point is that they will need at least 2 weeks, to vote on the first presidential election and, of course, the governorship election from that. Logistically, it seems to be a nightmare. But I'm sure that there are ways that this can be worked out around that so that they actually vote. But they cannot vote if they don't collect their PVCs.
Yeah.
So, yes, it's a difficult one. But
it's a good move.
Yes, a good move, yes.
All right, let's look at these complexities of preparations for the elections. Now, 2 governorship candidates appears to have died in the process of trying to become governors in different states. And I would also add this to it. Atiku welcomes US visa ban on Nigerian undermining democracy. And now this has been like a trend, especially for the international community, to begin to monitor our elections and begin to determine how our leaders will be punished if they fall short of some certain criterion or possibly conditions. Now, if you look at the elections, it's not like they have a holistic, free and fair and transparent process. From what we had or saw during the Trump administration shows a lot of leakages and loopholes within even the U.S. government system in terms of election itself. Now, what does it tell us? Is this a way of spanking us and telling us that we're still a third world country?
Well, I always balk at the expression third world, but I think they hold the reins. They are in power. They have the money. They have the clout. And of course, what they try to do is tailor us to their own agenda. It is true, of course, that there are no perfect elections anywhere. Not even in the U.S., where, of course, Trump tried to make a nonsense of the elections. The problem I have with that proclamation or that decision is that many of these elites that are causing trouble have dual citizenship. And so, yes, it's for those who need visas that this really affects. Those that have dual citizenship will get away with it. That's part of the problem that I have. I think it's a good move, if it's going to capture the key players, from that point of view. But that policy should take into account that many of the key players, as I've said, have dual citizenship. I think the leverage of the international community is quite limited now, and I think the best they can do is, just say, oh, we'll stop the visa and that sort of thing. Many of them, particularly Britain and US and the West, don't lend us much more money anyway. It's China that we tend to owe a lot of funds to. So you can't even say that as creditors, that their leverage, you understand, is not as powerful as it would have been, say, 20, 30 years ago when the Paris Club was the main creditor to Nigeria.
And now, what about the complexities of some of those governors falling and dying?
Yes.
At a time they had to be preparing for elections itself.
I think the constitution is quite clear. If they die, they will be replaced. And usually they are replaced. I've forgotten the precise provision of the electoral law, but there are provisions for them to be replaced. I think that it normally would happen in an election that one or two people will pass on. If many more pass on, then you begin to get concerned. I also think that, remember that we have so many political parties, more than 17, I believe, stand to be corrected. And so, naturally, sometimes this will happen. Of course, our hearts go and our commiserations go to the people that have lost those loved ones at this time.
All right, before we go on another commercial break, this one says, no PVC, no voting. This is coming from Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, the INEC chairman, and apparently there are some disturbing news or misinformation that if you don't have your PVC, you might still be able to vote, or you will still be able to vote. And this is just an inappropriate viral assumption. I guess we need to sensitize the people against false news like this, that if they do not have their PVC, they cannot cast their votes.
It's not even logistically possible, because of what you do with the card is supposed to be put into the BVAS machine. That's my belief. And after that, your thumbprint and some other things, the picture is recognized and so on. So there are processes, you understand. Without the card, those processes cannot be activated. So anybody that is suggesting otherwise is just sending people on a fool's errand.
All right, we have to go on a commercial break. When we come back, we open the phone lines to take your reactions. Stay tuned to 32 FM 94.9.
32 FM 94.9.
It's a beautiful morning, Naija. Don't forget to deposit your old Naira notes into your Momo wallet at the nearest Momo agent outlet before January 31st, 2023. First dial *671# to open the Momo wallet, then call our toll-free number 671 to locate the Momo agent near you.
Kids Twisco to support their big dreams.
Twisco, power your dream.
Agbára àti mú ìyípadà tí gbogbo wa ń fẹ́ lórílẹ̀‐èdè yìí ń bẹ lọ́wọ́ ìmí rẹ. Dìde lọ gba káàdì ìdìbò alálòpẹ́ rẹ. Ìkànnì Adẹ́rìnpòṣónú 32 FM 94.9 ló ṣonígbọ̀wọ́ kéde yìí.
Your Friday nights just got a massive reload. Catch a vibe and run with it on Club 32 with DJ Mascot, spinning you into musical heavens. Club 32, Max Cruise, Max Vibes, Max Hypes, Max Energy. It's happening on 32 FM 94.9 every Friday, 10 p.m. Turn up on Friday nights with DJ Mascot on Club 32. It's about to go down. It's about to be lit.
Ẹ̀yin tèmi àtúntì gbèdé o lójú ẹsẹ̀ tó ń gbóná fẹ́lí ìfilọ́lẹ̀ Glow Festival of Joy.
Ayẹyẹ tó yílé ayé yẹn padà látọwọ́ Glow ní.
Gbàgede tó kún fún àwọn ẹ̀bùn jankan-jankan fún jíjẹ.
Ilé tuntun lọ́nà ogún.
Ọkọ̀ tuntun mẹ́rìnlélógún.
Ẹ̀rọ ọgọ́rùn-ún kan tó ń pèsè iná.
Ẹ̀rọ ìrọṣọ ọgọ́rùn-ún méjì. Ẹ̀rọ afẹ́tẹ́gùn tó ń gbaná sára ẹgbẹ̀rún kan.
Àtàwọn ẹgbẹ̀rún lọ́nà ẹgbẹ̀rún ẹ̀bùn tó ká màmá.
Ṣé àti tẹ *611# láti darapọ̀ mọ́ wọn kó o sì jẹ nínú ìfilọ́lẹ̀ Glow Festival of Joy. Ra dátà tí ó tó ẹgbẹ̀rún lọ́nà ọgọ́rùn-ún náírà lásìkò ìfilọ́lẹ̀ yìí. Ó dẹ̀ lè jẹ̀bú ilé tó o bá dẹ̀ ra ìwé ìpè tàbí dátà láti ọgọ́rùn-ún márùn-ún sí ẹgbẹ̀rún mẹ́wàá náírà lóṣooṣù lọ́sẹ̀ẹsẹ̀ àbí lójoojúmọ́. Wà ní àǹfààní àti jẹ ẹ̀bùn ọkọ̀ ayọ́kẹ́lẹ́ tuntun kan pẹ̀lú ẹ̀bùn tó ká mọ̀mọ́.
Má lọ jókòó tẹ̀tẹ̀rẹ̀, má nà gẹ̀rẹ̀.
Tẹ *611# ní báyìí láti darapọ̀ kó o dẹ̀ máa jẹ lọ àdéhùn àti àsọtẹ́lẹ̀ ó ń bẹ o.
Glow Unlimited.
You're listening to 32 FM 94.9.
The break of dawn on 32 FM 94.9. You're welcome back. The phone line 0705 5,949 and 0809 7,949 to share your thoughts this morning. Hello.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. It's Ayo calling from Ring Road. I think I'd like to talk about this issue of the power sector. The Prof is right when he's talking about the level of infrastructural decay over the years. But I think outside that, one of the issues we have is this issue of exclusive list. You find out that if you liken the old NITA, which we privatized and allowed private investors to come in into the power issue, what the country needs to do, apart from privatization, is give licenses to private individuals who could generate power on small scales, on the petrol, MPV, and all of that, and be able to also sell to other individuals. You will find that this way, you could have a lot of people who generate and distribute at their own different levels, and you will find that people are willing to do that. Because to continue to pump money into the transmission and hope it will improve will continue to lead to power back out, and it will not be resolved until the federal government and the legislature take the bull by the horn and totally liberalize the power sector, allow individuals, private companies, all of that to generate power and distribute. That's when we could solve this problem. Thank you. Good morning.
Can I just note that the Constitution has just been recently amended. It's not been effected to allow, to liberalize. And if that comes into effect, yes, what your suggestion will have its way.
All right, 0705 5,949. Hello.
Adenike.
Good morning.
Gbolabo.
Good morning.
Good morning. This is okay. I was just thinking out loud that, Prof, is it possible that probably a vast majority don't have bank accounts? Probably that's why we are now engrossed in these few hours thing that we won't collect old notes. Because I'm just thinking out loud. Because I actually believe if the banks are accepting it, I can actually collect and go and deposit there. Probably the fear is that since I don't have an account, I might not be able to. Now the problem now lies with the banks that have refused to load the new currency into the ATM. Why are they not doing that? Even with the threat from the central bank. Doesn't it tell us that the central bank, looking at what is happening, it seems they are bulldogs, toothless bulldogs, who the banks are daring. These are what we do. And like Adenike, like rightly said, 4 days to go. How and what do we do? Prof, every one of us, are we not going to say no, we won't collect it? I want to urge us, probably when we collect, let's go and deposit in the bank. Good morning.
All right. Thank you so much, okay, for that. I do not know if it's the stress of the banks, because right now, if everybody's trying to deposit at the same time, it might be a little bit...
Yes.
Hello, good morning. Sorry for hold on.
Yes.
Hello, good morning.
My name is Gbolabo.
Please go on.
Just want to comment about that. 3 million Nigerians renounce their citizenship. It's a sad story. And here that is just the fertile land, the land that is flowing with milk and honey. How can we see the 3 million renounce their citizenship? The reason is not perfect. Kidnapping, banditry, strike today, strike tomorrow. All these things are the reason why people renounce their citizenship. My advice to anyone that wants to renounce the citizenship that he must ensure that he perfects his paper, so that at the end of the day, it is not a boomerang. On the issue of okay, have a nice day. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much for that. Renouncing citizenship.
All right, I guess we can get some details from also Facebook. People already commenting, and we have Miriam Yetunde said, "Good morning. Concerning the deadline to the old notes, which still remains 31st of January, and the ups and downs attached to cashless policy and the redesigning of our notes. News added that some organizations, market people, schools, and even bars now reject the old notes. How on earth can the motive towards the redesigning of our notes be achieved if by now we don't have it in circulation already?"
Hello,
this
good morning.
is Chupatech.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This is a lady from LLA.
All right.
On the closure of schools, Doctor, how is it that hard for us to have that kind of a planning for everything we want to do? Since we know the period we are going to undergo registration, we ought to have programmed it that where you are, when the registration is on, should be where you should be, especially students. When you want to collect those PVCs, so also during voting, you should be where you registered and collected your PVC. Why is it so hard for us to program our things? And now some people are agitating for. If they refuse to close the schools now, not minding the what really happened concerning the educational sector, that means some people will not be able to vote if they are in schools. So, Doctor, please, why is it so hard for us to have a solid plan for everything we do? Have a nice day.
All right, Prof, you want to react to that?
Well, it's so hard because nobody expected that we'd have 8-month strike. And of course, the 8-month strike has upset a lot of things, because normally students were expected to be in school at that period of time, and they were on strike. So I think that is a factor. Yes. That's a factor.
Yeah, absolutely. So I saw something that says, which queue are you joining today? Queue for fuel, queue for PVC, or queue for new Naira notes?
Oh, God.
Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
This is John Olayiwaju from Ado.
All right.
Actually, the last caller, the question he asked is that me too, I've been asking myself about that question several times, but I concluded that it's because they are doing everything politically in this nation. They are not doing it for the people. They are doing it because of they want to because of somebody or their opposition. That's the way they are doing. Like Baba Bola Tinubu rightly said this morning that it was opposition Atiku, that PDP rather, that he saboteur with some people in APC. Well, to me, I don't even want to bother about whether Atiku or PDP or whatever, because it's your party that is the government. And even I listened to Mr. President yesterday when they granted him interview that go and vote for what any candidate that you wish, that you like. It means that even Mr. President didn't even campaign for his own candidate, which shows that Tinubu should address his party, his members, his political party members, not opposition, because see oversee ọ̀tá inú ilé, ọ̀tá ìta kò lè parí ẹ̀ṣẹ̀ ẹ̀kọ́tò.
Yeah, but let me just make a point. At the end of the day, the president said that the APC was lucky to have Tinubu as a presidential candidate. So let's take the context of what Mr. President said.
All right, one quick comment on Facebook. Omotayo Oluwarushimi says, it baffles me that the same CBN chairman, Emefiele, was contesting to be president, yet now he's not doing anything about the sufferings of the masses. Let Nigerians know they are the ones who are always choosing our bad leaders. 0705 5949 and 0809 7949. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Okay, we'll just take some more comments on Facebook.
Right. We have Timothy Okore says, good morning, Adenike and Gbolabo. I pray again this morning, and that is the present kind of government will never happen to Nigeria again, in Jesus' name.
Okay.
With an exclamation, amen.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning to you. Doctor, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Please, I have a question to answer. Please, I have a question to ask you. Please, why is the man, why is he refused to go to the house?
Question.
You want
the CBN governor, why is he refused to go to the house? That's my question. Thank you.
All right.
The legislature has oversight functions over the executive, even to a certain extent over the judiciary, and part of those functions means that for officials explain controversial policies or policies that are not so clear. So it is the right of the legislature, constitutionally and even sensibly.
Hello, good morning.
The answer is, what makes the president not to go to the house? What makes most of the ministers do not to respond to call from the house? That is what is making me feel not to go to the house. Have a nice day.
All right. Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
Gbolabo is calling back again. I just want to comment on the Speaker of House of Representatives that is threatening the CBN government with a warrant of arrest. I don't think this one can work, because in Nigeria we have turned the thing upside down. Legislative is number one among the order of government. But in Nigeria, you can't be the case. So the threatening CBN government with a warrant of arrest, I don't think it can work. There's a proverb that if they see a man dancing at the bank of the river, the drama is inside the water. The CBN government is body that no amount of water can translate him. That's my comment. Have a nice day.
All right. Thank you so much. I think that's the much we can take on the Break of Dawn this morning. Thank you so much, Prof, for coming. And have yourself a good day. My name is Adenike Ademuwagun.
And I'm Gbolabo, Famous School. Bye for now.